So, did you make contact with aliens? Were you taken to another planet, to a mothership? How did they communicate with... Can you tell me what they look like? Can you tell me how many of them there were? Were you given food?
But the teachers are alive. They're not books. They are the very living essences of nature itself.
What a strange person.
Unbelievably powerful supercomputer that's running our reality, and we don't have a clue as to how to operate it.
So when maybe you or somebody else creates an AGI system and you get to ask her one question, what would that question be?
What's outside the simulation?
Say in your mind, say to yourself, I am more than my physical body, because I am more than physical matter. I can perceive that which is greater than the physical world.
Welcome to Lighting the Void.
Broadcasting from New York, upstate near the Great Lakes, it's Lighting the Void, and I'm your host, Joe Roop, and we are live on Fringe.fm, KTLK Digital Broadcasting. That website for the network is Fringe.fm, and our website is lightingthevoid.com. We're here for you 5 nights a week, 9 p.m. Pacific to 11 p.m. Pacific, live, raw, uncut and uncensored, except for, a little cursing here and there. I want to thank KFSA News Talk for picking up the program. And if you guys know any late night radio stations, especially the ones that just are boring you to death, tell them, man, you can pick up Fringe late night if you want, and have them email producer@thefringe.fm. The call-in number for tonight's 1-800-588-0335. I'm your host, Joe Roop. And tonight we're going to be talking about magic and occultism. And if this is your first time listening to the broadcast, the show's pretty eclectic, but we talk about all things conscious exploration, weird, strange, and even pop culture. So you don't see too many eclectic talk radio shows. It's usually about politics or conspiracy politics. And that's about it. But there are a few paranormal shows and stuff out there too. But this is different, man. This is Fringe. So remember that. If you want to support the show, you can go to lightingthevoid.com, click on the Patreon banner, make a one-time donation, sign up to be a patron, grab some swag, leave reviews, tell everybody about the show. That stuff really helps. So, the biggest thing I want to talk about, but real quick, I want to thank Dr. Joy Pugh for coming on last night. We had a lot of discussion about biblical prophecy, paranormal experiences, and spiritual awakening. Got a little feedback, about a little bit of the Christian bias there, but it's okay. There's a lot of shows that wouldn't talk about those types of things, but here, man, we're void walkers. We got to talk about everything. And speaking of which, I don't know if you guys have heard the about the AI, what they did when they unlocked some stuff about the Dead Sea Scrolls. I'll tell you about that here in just a second. Our guest coming up tonight is Adam Mistry, and we're going to be talking about spiritual development through magic and occultism. So real quick in the news, looking at the reports here, I was going over some of this stuff from last night, and artificial intelligence has unlocked a mystery about the Dead Sea Scrolls for the first time. It shows that 2 scribes wrote part of the mysteries, ancient Dead Sea Scrolls, and they had an artificial intelligent, I guess, machine, if you want to look at it that way. But the test they did, they were carried out on the longest text known as the Great Isaiah Scroll, and it was found that probably 2 unknown individuals had copied down the words using near identical handwriting, and the scrolls, which include the oldest version of the Bible, have been a source of a lot of talk for a long time, especially with us. But they were discovered some 70 years ago, but the first sets were found by Cave and Qumran near the Dead Sea and what is now known as the Israeli-occupied West Bank. So, but the way they did this is these researchers at the University of Groningen in the Netherlands, they took the scrolls using cutting-edge pattern recognition and artificial intelligence, and they analyzed the single Hebrew letter Aleph, which appears more than 5,000 times in the scroll. And this guy named Popovic, he published a paper about what happened, and they said that we succeeded at extracting the ancient ink traces as they appear on the digital images, and the ancient ink traces relate directly to a person's muscle movement and are person-specific. So using a technique which helped produce evidence that more than one scribe was involved with the Dead Sea Scrolls. Now, the likely scenario is one of 2 different scribes working closely together and trying to keep the same style of writing, but they kind of revealed themselves with this once it was analyzed. The researcher said that the similarity in handwriting suggests that the scribes could have undergone the same training in a school or family, such as a father having taught a son to write, but they really tried to mimic each other's handwriting to make it look like one person wrote these scrolls, but they used artificial intelligence to find out it was not 1, it was 2. Wow. So I don't know what that does or how much that helps us, but I think that's pretty neat. And it kind of goes along with what we're talking about tonight, because just like last night, we were discussing the Hebrew language. And in a lot of magic and occultism, you'll see just how powerful the Hebrew language is. In fact, in the Golden Dawn, they used the Hebrew letters to, they used the Hebrew letters to scry with. So you could scry, or you could, even if you astral traveled, if you saw an entity or anything like that, you could scry or trace a Hebrew letter with your finger, and it would allow the entity, you would either tell it who you are or would get it to react a certain way. It's pretty interesting stuff. You got to check that out. If you ever read the Golden Dawn, look up scrying. So tonight's broadcast is pretty cool, because a lot of times when we talk about magic and occultism, we talk about, manifesting things or discovering hidden information, because that's basically what occultism is, right? Is discovering hidden information. But what was it really designed for, especially the ceremonial side of it? And did the Western esoteric tradition emerge as a system to accelerate and integrate the growth of our spirit with expanded consciousness? That question, I would say definitely yes. A lot of times people ask me, when I had my first out-of-body experience, if it was because of the Robert Monroe material. But the more I think about it, the more I go back to my journal, I would say, yeah, I was listening to both Robert Monroe and William Buellman, but I listened to that a lot. The catalyst for it, though, was the fact that I was starting my magical stuff on a daily basis, right? Because that's what ritual is doing magic on a daily basis. So is there more than one type of magic? Really? Or are people just dividing it all up and calling it different things? Or are there many different paths which are built around the same principles? Now, any of you that have really got into magic and occultism, and I'm sure you have, it's super popular nowadays, by the way. You start to see patterns. It doesn't matter if people say, well, I'm a ceremonial magician, or I'm a Wiccan, or I'm a chaos magician or whatever. What you will see are Hermetic patterns, the Hermetic principles, though. And in occultism, are we really learning how to speak with our greater selves, to our higher self? And I would say again, absolutely yes. So we're going to have Adam Mistry come on here in just a moment, and he's going to speak to us and talk a little bit about some of this stuff. I get a lot of questions about that. What was I doing when I first had that out-of-body experience, or what rituals was I doing? It wasn't anything like spectacular. It wasn't anything, I wasn't like conjuring demons or anything like that. All I was doing was the basic like grounding and banishing rituals, which is meditation. You know, a lot of people think when you start doing magic or when you start performing magic, that you're out there doing some kind of crazy incantation or something, but really it's not anything like that. At least not for me. It was all about meditations. We're learning the fourfold breath, learning how to ground yourself and relax, learning how to, sometimes you had to do weird, crazy exercises like just focus on a point for as long as you possibly can. Or do the middle pillar exercise, which is basically another grounding and centering meditation. So in the beginning, it seems kind of mundane. There's a lot of boring stuff. A lot of the study part of it's cool. At least, you know, for me it was, because I learned a lot about the Hebrew language. I learned a lot about astrology, a lot about the tarot, the elements, the planets, all of their signs and correspondences. A lot of cool stuff, but the actual practice of it isn't as crazy and extravagant as a lot of people would think. I mean, it was simply just meditations, relaxation, focus, grounding, and learning to balance your energy. That's all of what neophyte magic is. So in that sense, if you go back to the Golden Dawn material, they weren't really trying to learn how to manifest their reality. Although, like I say all the time, it does kind of happen that way. You start learning that you can, and you got to be careful how you do that, by the way. But it was more to come in contact with your higher self in a more rapid way, in a more, let me see, how can I put this? There's a, if you guys go back to the Union of the Unwanted show, you could tell that there were people that were Christian mystics and occultists or practicing magicians. And there's this great debate between magic and mysticism. And the way I look at it is, at least at this point in my void walking life, is mysticism is basically just meditation or allowing to become one with everything, right? It's really all it is. You learn to meditate, you learn to sink in with nature and become one with everything. And you feel what it's like to be one with everything. So when you hear the mystics, a lot of that to me is what that is. Eastern kind of one with everything approach. Magic, or theurgy, or thaumaturgy, depending on which one you're doing, is more of a practical approach where you're getting more involved and you're doing more things. So it's more like moving meditation, but it's not so much to become one with everything. It's to become one with yourself and find out what your higher self or who your higher self is by learning to communicate with it, and also understanding that you're co-creating in this realm with the God force or your higher self, or what some people call the holy guardian angel. It's been called a lot of things. And I have to give this kind of lesson every now and then because there's a lot of misunderstandings. So when I tell people that a lot of the magic that's practiced nowadays came from the Golden Dawn, some people get upset. Well, no, this didn't come from the Golden Dawn, or that didn't. the structure of the banishing rituals and most of that stuff came from the Golden Dawn that was organized and structured and put out. Yeah. The different correspondences, the Hermetic magic that we use that's corresponded with the Tree of Life came from the Golden Dawn. The tarot that everybody's using nowadays, especially the Rider-Waite symbols. And most tarot decks go back to the Rider-Waite symbols. Arthur Edward Waite was a member of the Golden Dawn, designed that tarot from his work in the Golden Dawn. So, yeah, what really happens is, this is what really happens, and I'm not trying to be an ass, I'm just telling you, is most people, they look it up, they get excited about learning about it, and then they open the book, the black brick of the Golden Dawn material, and it is excruciatingly, I guess, painful to go through that system. But I think it's totally worth it. Totally worth it. But it has been moderned down a little bit too. So if you go to, well, I used to have it on the blog, but there is another book that's kind of been moderned down by Donald Michael Craig, or is it Donald Tyson? I forget. It's Modern Magic. You could use that one too. But my favorite one is the book by Liam Thomas Christopher called Kabbalah, Magic, and the Great Work of Cell Transformation, which I got that book learning this stuff from Frater Xavier before I ever got involved with any orders or anything like that. So I think it's important if you're going to study magic or if you're going to practice it, and this is just my opinion, and we'll get the opinions from our guest here soon, that you look into these things, the origins of it, and study where it came from. Now, obviously, magic itself didn't come from the Golden Dawn, nor ceremonial magic didn't come from the Golden Dawn. But most of the stuff that you see nowadays and how it's structured and organized either did or they took a lot of things from the Golden Dawn, like the watchtowers and all this other stuff. What you'll hear from people is when you discuss that, especially some chaos magicians, and they'll say, well, that's outdated, it's old, or you're being snooty, or it's one of those times when you talk about something really cool and people that like structure and they like to learn things in a scholarly fashion in that way, we get looked down upon a little bit. But the truth is I like all of it. I like chaos magic. I like all of it. And last night hearing that show I'll be honest with you, it triggered me a little bit. It made me feel it made me feel like I did when I first started kind of getting away from religion. But the pendulum swung and I finally came back and realized what religion was and what it was really here for. So it's kind of weird, right? If you listen to the show last night, we talked a lot about the stuff in the Bible and some of the truths that are in the Bible that our guests said that were true in there. And I personally believe a lot of there's stuff in the Bible that I can't prove it scientifically that it's true, but it feels true to my soul. Like the book of Psalms, or better known as the Shemush Tehillim, which was a magical text specifically used. That doesn't seem that way, right? Because it's a book of prayers. But that's what a lot of magic is prayer. Anyways, I'm rambling. So we're gonna get into this subject tonight, and I want to thank Rohan for working his butt off behind the scenes on the Deep Void project, and also Pacho for booking the guests. He's really been doing a killer job, and all of you guys for listening to the show night after night. Also, to let you know, Ryan Gable's on the road, but we're playing the best of each night, and I'm going to try to get him on the broadcast eventually too, so he can kind of chime in from where he's at. He went and bought him a brand new microphone so that he could do it on the road too, so everything's cool in that sense. And I don't know if I should talk about this, but I did have a little incident in my dreams last night. you know how I like to tell you guys just about pretty much everything that happens to me. You know, I don't really like to hold back because it feels like I'm not really being authentic or sharing my whole self. But I had a full-fledged, I feel like prophecy, like a prophetic dream last night. It was like almost a nightmare. And it might be because we did that broadcast after, you know, the Bible, talking about the Bible and Revelations and all that stuff. But I had a dream that all of that stuff, I wouldn't say all of it, but like the plagues, the locusts, the resurrection. I dreamed about all of that, and it was the most horrific, weirdest feeling. And it was so vivid too. Like what she was talking about, how, you know, if your bodies are still in the grave, because they talk about the bodies rising up out of the graves and the resurrection. It was the creepiest thing. I saw people rise up out of their graves, man, in my sleep. I don't have nightmares. I'm not, you know, I hadn't had nightmares since I was a little kid, and I've had 2 nightmares this past month. It's starting to trip me out. And I kind of feel like I'm in the twilight zone up here sometimes in upstate New York, because it's coming from Arkansas. We don't have this much winter and cold and wind, and it doesn't snow in late April, you know. So I feel like right now I know that there's quite a few of you listening, but I got to tell you, it feels like I'm talking into nothing. Like I'm really not speaking to anybody. And maybe you're just a figment of my imagination. You've never had that before? You've never like had a moment in your life where everything just felt like you were in the Twilight Zone, or maybe Neo in the Matrix before Morpheus woke him up? Like I feel like that. I've been feeling like that all the time here lately. Night Stalker says people are dreaming about like crazy red skies too, but all that other. See? So I'm not the only one. That's good. I don't want to be the only one, because it's starting to freak me out. And I love my sleep, man. I love my sleep. I love to dream. I love to lucid dream. I'm always trying to have an out-of-body experience. And the last thing I need is to try to get some nightmares to go away. And by the way, if you want to join the chat room, you can go to fringe.fm/chat room. Make sure you jump in there. Or if you go to fringe.fm, there is a Discord link there. Just a little Discord logo in the middle of the page. And you can click on that and it will send you an invite. And a lot of people ask me, well, how do you get in there? Well, it's pretty easy, because once you click on the link, it takes you straight to Discord. And just so you guys know, because this will be like the 10th question I got about the chat room this week, you don't have to download the Discord app. It's a lot easier, but you can do it from your browser too. They have a Discord version right there in your browser, so you don't have to download the app, but you can also download it on the on your iPhone, your Android, your iPad. You can download the app on your computer. It's pretty cool. You can take it anywhere you want to go. And you can also do that with the Fringe FM app as well. So we're going to get into a pretty cool discussion with Adam Mistry, talking about spiritual development through magic and occultism. We're going to take our first break here. I'm Joe Roop. This is Lighting the Void. You guys stay with us. More coming up. Hey, Fringe FM listeners, did you know that when you're on the road with limited data or no Wi-Fi available, you can still listen to every minute of the Fringe FM by calling 701-719-3971. No smartphone, app, or internet needed. Saves your data plan and no extra cost if you have unlimited minutes. Call 701-719-3971. That's 701-719-3971. Listen to the Fringe FM on any phone, anytime, anywhere.
AncientLifeOil.com. That's AncientLifeOil.com. Are you stressed? I mean, who isn't? Anxiety creeping in? No, not that. Is sleep hard to attain because your brain just won't slow down? We're living in crazy times, and the fear knob has been turned up. Okay, there's an answer. Take a big breath, exhale, and go log on to AncientLifeOil.com. CBD, broad and full spectrum, organic and non-GMO CBD for you to enjoy. Change your tune from fear to calm, from brain overload to clear thinking. 0.003 THC on full spectrum and 0% THC on broad spectrum. Competitive pricing with the best quality. Also know everything is going to get better. No worries, be happy. CBD can help calm so your nerves don't think they're a 6-string electric guitar. Enjoy life, smile, and log on to AncientLifeOil.com for great CBD. That's AncientLifeOil.com. You'll be glad you did.
Want to know what's on the Fringe FM? Check out our schedule at thefringe.fm.
Hola, Fringe listeners. This is Dave Cruz of Beyond the Strange, and you're listening to The Fringe FM.
This is Malorcas 45, fan of The Fringe FM, challenging everyone to open their mind's eye. Listen to Lighting the Void with Joe Roop to gain precision for your third eye vision.
My name is Jake. I'm from Billings, Montana, and I am a Void Walker.
Hey, Joe Roop. Thanks for lighting the void. This is Janine in the bluegrass of Kentucky, and I am a Void Walker.
What's up, guys? This is Damien from San Marcos, Texas, and I'm a Void Walker. I listen to the show to keep myself aligned with the world.
Hi, this is Laura, aka Laura Lavender. I'm from Las Vegas, and I listen to Lighting the Void because it helps me understand some of the strangest experiences I've had. So thanks for all that you do and for always being there for us, Joe.
Hi, this is Kronox from Belgium, and you're listening to Lighting the Void with Joe Roop.
Hey, this is country music singer and void walker Jason Benoit, and when I need my fix on the world of magic and the capabilities of the human consciousness, I listen to Joe Roop right here on Lighting the Void Radio.
Born out of the alchemical tradition of Paracelsus is a medical tradition called Spagyria. Though not many people practice this work today, Phoenix Aurelius has been researching and teaching this work for the last 15 years, and he needs your support.
Hi, I'm Phoenix Aurelius, and I'm the founder of the Phoenix Aurelius Research Society, where I perform modern scientific research on the methods and techniques of Paracelsian alchemy and Spagyria for health, wellness, agriculture, ecology, and more. All my work is 100% funded by the public, so if you like what I'm doing and you want to support my research, please consider making a purchase of Spagyric medicines from my apothecary, fund your own Spagyric IDF wellness research, or participate in my group study or one-on-one immersion courses so that you can learn how to perform this work for yourself. I want to thank you in advance for your support.
Visit thefringe.fm/alchemy research and enter coupon code FRINGE and receive 15% off anything and everything on the website. That's thefringe.fm/alchemy research. And thank you for doing your part and keeping alchemy alive in the modern day. Welcome back to Lighting the Void. I'm your host, Joe Roop. Tonight we're going to be talking about magic and occultism. I want to thank our sponsors real quick. AncientLifeOil.com, the best CBD oil on the planet. GetTheTea.com. What are you doing if you're not getting the tea? And also DogmanCams.com. And speaking of which, Dogman Hunter himself, not really a hunter, the storyteller, Dark Waters is going to be here with us tomorrow night to talk about Dogman Cams and all the cool stuff they're doing. All right, so Adam Mistry is here with us, a 10-year practicing occultist, also hermeticist, alchemist, and studies the Kabbalah, and just an all-around cool dude. And I'm going to put some links in the chat room too, so you can go check out his podcast he was on Tinfoil Hat, as well as his Facebook page, facebook.com/Adam Mistry. And yeah, man, thanks for coming on the broadcast. Good to have you here.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Joe. I should actually mention I started a YouTube channel recently because a lot of people have been telling me to. So maybe I'll swing the link to you after the show. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I mean, any content will help because our audience is hungry for that stuff. So, yeah, man, no problem. Tell me about your story. I know I told you when I first talked to you, as soon as you came on here, I thought you were from the States, and then you got kind of this mixed accent because you're from all over the place. So yeah, just give us a little background about yourself, man. Well, my background, it's interesting. My mom's Greek. She's originally from Greece. So I have this, kind of yearning for, the pagan Greek mysteries in a way, the Neoplatonic, the Hermetic stuff. And then my dad is a little bit more complicated because he's from England, but both his parents were from India. So there's this East-West kind of hybrid thing going on. But they're also they're Parsi. If you know what Parsi is, it's okay. If you don't, you don't. But they're basically ancient Persians that live in India. So I've got this weird kind of Greek-Persian mix. The Greeks and the Persians never liked each other, but in the end, they've come together in me. Well, some of them did, obviously, or you wouldn't be here, right? Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and so they basically had me. Well, they came to Australia and had me. I may have been waiting in the spirit world wanting to be born in England or something, but I got born in Australia. So there we go. Yeah, well, so that's cool. So tonight I wanted to talk about, when we talk about magic and occultism, a lot of people discuss how to manifest stuff or how magic can change your life. But I kind of wanted to talk to you about how it actually accelerates our consciousness and how it grows us as spiritual individuals. That doesn't get talked about a lot. I think Andy Cooper was the last person I talked to about that. And everybody else kind of talks about manifesting stuff or conjurations, but they miss the whole, in my point of view, the big point of it. I completely agree. It's like they kind of want something almost like like they want to point at something and they want it to change. They basically, to them, magic is almost like just another form of technology or something. It's just a technology of the spirit or the ether or something interdimensional or something. But it's so much more than that. As you put it beautifully, it's like it can accelerate our spiritual, our conscious development. That's what it is inherently. I don't know, magical powers are one thing to talk about, but how the ancients viewed it, really, so if we first start with, magical powers, what's their source? I would say by looking at the ancients, the source of magical power really comes from the human soul or something divine, that divine part, our higher self. That's where magical force, magical power comes from. It comes from something deep, deep within us. And so by connecting with that, magic blooms like a flower. And you could say different faculties, different magical powers are just different flowers on the soul itself. So by developing the soul, by developing our consciousness, these powers come about. That's why you see in ancient tradition. That's why you see when you look at mystical Christian texts and you look at the saints and they have weird healing powers, or they're in two places at once. Or when you look at Buddhist scriptures, you see all these Buddhist sages who can tame demons or control the elements or the weather or something. And you see this in all traditions: Sufi, Hindu, yoga. These traditions. People look at them and think they're just religions, but they miss the fact that they touch the outside of it. and they don't really go deep into its core. And that's one of the tragedies, because deep in the core is this path, is like techniques, is tools we can use to start to develop ourselves in that way. Although maybe I should make a separation and say, in a lot of systems, whether they be East and West, there are kind of two paths. One is of the mystic and one is of the magi, or like magician.
I just got through saying that too. I want to hear what your point of view of that is, though.
My take on it is, you could say it's one's more intellectual, one's more emotional, or you could kind of separate it like that, but it's not really. It's more of the way. There's an author called Dion Fortune, and she put it really well. She basically, the example she gives is, she says something like, imagine two guys trapped on an island. One guy is just going to want to like start hitting a tree with an axe and, cut down some wood, bind planks together, with whatever material they can get, and then just get on the water and try and get out of it. They just want to get out. Whereas the other guy will be like, hey, well, hold on, Dave. Let's maybe, let's explore the island. Let's walk around the island, see how big it is. Let's maybe go into the island, find a water source, lay down some roads. That's someone wants to discover some more before leaving the island. So these are the two kind of perspectives. So there's some spiritual paths are just like, we just want God, or we just want the truth, or we just want to, we're gunning for escaping the simulation or whatever. We just want to get out. We just want to get out, basically. That's kind of the mystic. The mystic isn't really concerned with powers. The mystic is like a kind of a renunciate. They go through a Buddhist-like annihilation of the self until the only thing left is God, or the higher self, the Atman, whatever you want to call it, until the only thing left is pure divinity, and then that thing ascends. Whereas the path of the magician, or the magi, or the sorcerer, whatever you want to call it, the occultist, this path is a little bit different, because this path aims to regenerate man to a certain point, but then we develop ourselves in a different way. So people who want to, say, like, annihilate all of their ego, dissolve all of their ego and just be absorbed back into the absolute, they want to make their consciousness how it was before creation. Whereas a magician will want to make their consciousness, or make their being, regenerate themselves to back before the fall of man, when mankind was godlike, but then we lost our powers. So they want to regenerate ourselves back to that. Yeah, it's kind of like
the way I said it was like the mystic wants to become one with everything, with oneness. It's a lot of oneness, become one with everything, one love, kind of feel the oneness thing. And the magician wants to come in contact with the higher self, right? Mm-hmm. With the highest or most divine version of the self.
Yeah, like the mystic. I mean, they both. I would say they both do that. The difference. Another way you could put it is like the feeling of the path. Because I've met people who are clearly advanced spiritually, and I even heard one person said this. He said, you don't really control the path. The being, the divine. He was kind of more of a goddess. He worked with a kind of the divine feminine. He said, the divine feminine just comes and pulls you along the path. And there are some stories like that. There's a Sufi story where there's like some Sufi master in a town, but he was just a peasant. And then all of a sudden one day he started just speaking truths, and he became a wise man, and people regarded him greatly. And the Sultan wanted to meet him. And so, but he would refuse to come to the palace. And so the Sultan sent his trusted guards to go and get him. And they came to him and said, if you don't come see the Sultan, we're going to kill you. And the guy said, okay, kill me and see what the Sultan says. And so they kind of backed off, and the Sultan was left like, oh, what do I do? So he watched the wise man walk around town, kind of divvying out wise sayings. And then he saw that the wise man every now and then in his route came around close to like the eastern side of his fortress, of the Sultan's fortress. And so he was like, okay. So the Sultan went to the east side and made this net, and then waited for the wise man. And when the wise man came close, he sent the net down and brought him up, and then was able to caught him like a fish, basically, and then spoke to him and said, yo, wise man, I'm paraphrasing, obviously, yo, wise man, how is it that Allah has given you all of this wisdom? And the wise man looks at him and says, look, I only know Allah gave me this wisdom. Allah came to me the same way that I have come to you, or basically what you've done to me, Allah did to me.
Yeah.
Like, he had no control. So the path of the mystic, it's like a devotion. It's like bhakti yoga. It's this path where something is created, but it's separate from you. It's above you, and then it reaches down and it grabs you and it pulls you into it. So it is that oneness, you could say, and then you become one with God and you become one with everything. So I agree with you. But it's like, it's a path that inherently it's rootless. You may or may not have experiences. You may or may not manifest powers or whatever. That is actually irrelevant. What you want is God. It's all about the aim. Whereas the magician or the occultist, when they work, they create something, but they bring it down. They bring a solar force within them that manifests in their heart, and then that takes dominion over the lower self, over the appetites, the desires, the sporadic impulses, over the mind, so that then they can control it, and then they can begin awakening faculties and awaken clairvoyance and astral projection and understanding past lives and whatnot. That's how I would describe that divide.
So what type of magic do you practice?
Obviously, I enjoy talking about the magical path. I understand the mystic path as well, because there are some people, when they open up tomes of magic and they just look at all the magic squares and the sigils, they get put off, or it's almost something that's too arcane. It's like, they don't understand it. It overwhelms them.
Overwhelming, yeah, right.
Yeah, whereas the mystic path, it is majestic, it is ineffable, but at the same time, it can be seen as a simpler path. So you don't really need a great, you don't need anything more than average intelligence or something, or all you need is a big heart to walk the path of the mystic.
So,
whereas the path of, yeah.
So you don't practice magic, so to speak. You just love studying it. Yeah, you.
No, I do practice. So what I practice a bunch of stuff. That's why I find it hard to answer that kind of question. As I mentioned before, I enjoy reading certain alchemical texts, more internal alchemy than external alchemy. Obviously, Kabbalah as well has the aim of Kabbalah is the regeneration of the world and the regeneration of man.
I love it, man. Like if someone was to say, "What was your religion?" I'm not religious, but I would tell them, I'm a Hermetic Kabbalist. I'm a Hermetic Kabbalist.
Oh, nice.
For sure.
Nice. Yeah. I would say Gnostic. I would say my spine is Gnostic and everything else flows around that.
Yeah.
So,
but kosher Kabbalah is beautiful too, man. I mean, it all kind of runs together. Although the kosher Kabbalists, like Gosher Shalom, they're not too fond of Hermetic Kabbalists, but I would say it's all wonderful.
Yeah. Well, to them, it doesn't make any sense to them, because to them you need to be Jewish to be a Kabbalist, whereas the school of Kabbalah, it was birthed. It's perennial in a sense. It's been around for as long as the Jewish race has been around, since Moses, I suppose, or even before that. But it really comes into fruition in the Middle Ages with the Sefer Yetzirah, the Sefer Zohar, and the Sefer Behir, and all of those books that started to be released publicly in the world. And funnily enough, around the time in Europe, around the time that alchemy enters Europe, the Kabbalah begins to emerge in Europe as well.
That's interesting.
Very interesting. And then you see this kind of, what happens is then there are some Christian converts to Kabbalah, but then there's one guy who has a really not long name. It's something like Giovanni Pico della Mirandola, but people call him Pico. But Pico was the first Christian Kabbalist, and he was, you could say, a mystic. So he saw Kabbalah and he turned it into this system of mysticism, of moving up spheres, and then you eventually reach God, levels of consciousness, you eventually reach God. But then the Rosicrucians happened. And the Rosicrucians liked Kabbalah as well, but they also liked alchemy and magic. And so they're the ones who saw, Kabbalah, it's this mystical system, and it's very impenetrable, and there are things that are missing. So if there's some things that haven't been translated yet, and we don't have the complete Kabbalistic teachings, well, then we can fill in those parts that are missing with alchemy or with astrology, and they mixed things together like that, and they mixed Hermetics in, and then you get Hermetic Kabbalah, which is basically the backbone of almost all the Western magical tradition rituals.
Yeah, especially like Golden Dawn magic and stuff like that.
Oh yeah, especially that. Yeah, they're all Hermetic Kabbalah.
So you know what really got me though, and I'm curious to what really, when you have that aha moment, right? When you're studying this stuff, my first aha moment when I was realizing how powerful the Kabbalah was and just how real this magic and all this stuff could be is when I read the Sefer Sira. See, here we have a text talking about the hypercube of space, basically. It's being proven in quantum physics time and time and again with experiments as well, that it's real. Like this, what we call this observable universe is totally some form of an illusion, but real at the same time. And the Sefer Sira explain that through all of these correspondences, astrological correspondences, and above and below and in and out and all that stuff. Like reading that was pretty profound.
It's a very profound and impenetrable book. When I read it, I'm not going to say I understood much of it at all. But
yeah, it's just it's like this book that explains.
It describes creation, right?
Yeah,
and then it describes the body of God,
right?
And like the north and once again the cube. It's like the north, the south, the east, and the west, and different things. That I read it 10 years ago, so I'm like pulling it out of the bank.
Yeah, yeah, that's the beauty of it. I think that's why I get hooked on this stuff so much, because I'll get down a rabbit hole and start studying stuff, but then if I go back to some of the basics, like the Mystical Kabbalah by Dion Fortune or the Sefer Sira,
fantastic,
or just some of these texts that starts. I'm like, I guess maybe that's why I like magic and occultism so much, because you can veer off all kinds of different directions in this place, But
it hurts. Yeah, it always pays to then do something then practical as well, and that's why I really like authors who give those practices, like Franz Baden, or I think I listened to one of your other podcasts and you mentioned Samael Aron Dior,
right?
Yeah, that Dream Yoga book. I was like, yeah, he's a good author as well, and Dion Fortune gives some good stuff in some of her books as well. But yeah, it pays to. You don't want to. There's one, I think it was Samael. He said you don't want to get drunk on the opium of theories.
Right.
You don't want to just, as you said, you don't want to just read the books and study it. It's good to study it. It gives you a kind of it sharpens your mental intuition, you could say. But in the end, it would be a shame to just study it.
It would be,
to practice
right?
it. Yeah.
Yeah, because that was the big question I had. I usually have like 3 big questions of the night. And so one of my biggest questions is, did the Western esoteric tradition emerge as a system to accelerate and integrate the growth of our spirit with expanded consciousness? Now, like you're saying, we could study all the books in the world, but if you don't develop some type of practice with it, especially some type of, I would say, ritualistic meditative practice, some way that you're working energetically with this knowledge day in and day out, I believe humanity is missing out. I really do.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. I completely agree. So it's important to find those practices. And there are plenty of authors that give. Some authors are more substance than method. Like Rudolf Steiner, I'm not going to diss him, but he actually has amazing teachings, amazing substance. He talks about all different kinds of things that happen in Lemuria and all these different kind of cosmological ideas. A lot of the theosophists are like that as well, but in the end, they don't give much method. Maybe they give a kind of a Raja Yoga technique, or they give imagination, inspiration, intuition, and they kind of talk about awakening clairvoyance sometimes, but it's hard. You kind of need some to enter some kind of school, or if not, at one point I was thinking, like, if only you could start, like, I don't know, to encourage people to like start reading groups or something, so that they can just start reading, I don't know, esoteric literature, and from there maybe something can arise in the group. Maybe people want to start practicing, and then they can start doing it together as a group. Like maybe read Gurdjieff or something. Start something at least. Gurdjieff or Ouspensky is all right, because you don't need a big setup. You can just start self-remembering or something like that, or self-observing. It's like a psychological work, but then it aids in awakening.
Well,
which is that first part.
What you're talking about is the beauty of becoming a magi, which is something that I've learned in the Golden Dawn when I first started practicing it. It was in the beginning, which the Golden Dawn is pretty much the outer order, or learning to integrate the elements into your life and master the elements, right? But when you get in the inner order, then you learn to master these planetary energies and stuff, and then they have the Alpha Omega, which is the highest Rosicrucian order. But basically, it's the 3-step system of Masonry that's in all Western traditions. It's just broken down a lot more in Rosicrucianism and Magic, right? But when you get into that, you start realizing the fundamentals of things, and you can create what you're talking about, like your own system, like Lon Malo Duquette did. He just created this Kabbalistic system that he called it the son of chicken Kabbalah, and made kind of a joke about it, right? Because it's not really a joke, but it's really a good system that he just made up.
Yeah,
you know.
That's really interesting. I haven't read that book yet. I've read the Chicken Kabbalah. Great book. He's an interesting guy. I've heard good things about the Son of Chicken Kabbalah. You're making me want to go out and purchase another book now.
Yeah, it has a whole system based on that, and he actually has students overseas that practice this, and it's all about learning the Kabbalah in Hebrew, and each degree takes you through the letters and the understandings of the. Yeah, it's really cool, but.
He practices with the letters as well. Okay.
Right. Yeah. And to your point, he's practiced so much, and he's been a magi for so long. He understands fundamentally what this is all about, that he was able to create his own 3-step system, you know?
Yeah. That's beautiful. And it is really important. I don't know, to forge your own way I'm trying to think of the words to say it. It's like there's a great tree, and we're all a part of that tree, but that tree gives off fruits. And it's like, so you don't want to just stay under the shadow of the tree. You want to go off, and you want to start. You need to start growing. You need to create your own kind of thing. You need to be apart from the tree, but then you grow your own system, and that system, people may join it, and some people may be inspired by it, and they may attain, and then they become the fruits of those systems. I think one person said it best. He said something like, people always ask for ancient teachings, but really there is no ancient teachings. There's the teachings, and then the teacher gives them plus his inspiration. And then the next person, when they give the teachings, if they attain, then they give the teachings plus their inspiration. It's always something is rejuvenated and changed through time. So what like Don Milo Duquette did is something quite beautiful. I would say, I don't know, the true Kabbalists in the astral would probably be smiling down more on him than many of the Kabbalistic gatekeepers or something.
Yeah, right, yeah. Well, I think for me anyways, people always ask that, and they're like, why the Kabbalah? And I'm like, well, regardless if it is a map of consciousness or not, I know that when I train my soul, spirit, and mind in this system, like after a while, I can map out consciousness, whether I'm dreaming, scrying, doing whatever, and I could tell you where I am on the tree based on what I'm seeing and the symbols and everything. Nice. And that's kind of what it's for, but that doesn't mean, I don't think that means that the tree is everything. I think that means that that's what my soul has learned to use as a tool to map out and explore consciousness,
The tree is a fantastic backbone, and then to use to understand other systems. Because that's one of the main, I feel, problems that a lot of people have is they read, one book, and then they read another book, and then they read, it's not that. They read like a book on hermetics, and they read a book on yoga, and they read a book on this and that, and they're always reading something different, and they just get confused. But if you go deep into one system and you understand it, then when you look at other systems, you see the analogies, you connect things so much better. But the Kabbalah is almost like the perfect way to do that, because it's like the spheres and the levels it's described so succinctly. When you go to another tradition, you're just like, oh, okay, so this deity here is on the level of Chesed, or this deity is on the level of Chokmah, or when this master is talking, he's at this level, or he's speaking in this certain way. It's a very rich system.
Yeah, absolutely. We're at the top of the hour already. We got to take a break, but we'll open the phone lines up too if anybody's got any questions for our guest. And if you want, you can ask questions in the chat room too. The call-in number is 1-800-588-0335. We're here with our guest, Adam Mistry. Stay with us. More Lighting the Void coming up.
This is No Way Jose, a Northern California Piscean stuck in the Arizona desert. I'm a void walker, and I got the shoes to prove it. So what do I do when my soul yearns to delve deep into the realm of the unknown? I aim my satellite straight into the night sky and catch a smooth ride on the KTLK-DB radio waves. I tune into Lighting the Void with Joe Root on The Fringe FM.
Joe, Lighting the Void is the best show on the planet. This is Barney, your friend from Facebook. Thank you and all the crew for all you do. Namaste, my friend.
This is Macon from the foothills of North Carolina, and I am a void walker.
G'day, void walkers. This is Lily from down under Australia. The world may be small, but the enigma is greater. So let your curiosity take you for a journey with Joe Root.
Hey, this is V, coming in from Central Maryland, and I am a void walker.
This is Kevin Doherty, a beginner void walker. I'm from Vancouver, BC. I know a little about a lot, and as Leonard Skinner said, I guess the rest. I learned a lot from Mr. Root in the show, and heard it from the beginning. I knew right then he was going to be a new art pal. Thanks for all your shows, and keep it up.
Hey, this is Derek from Mass, aka the Night Stalker, and I'm a void walker.
This is Mark from Chicago, and I walk the void to ascertain what is consciousness.
My name is Jared Johnson, and I'm from Humboldt County, California. I do not know all the answers to the questions about reality. I do not claim to know the ultimate truth about life. I seek that which has been made hidden as a part of a family of explorers of consciousness. I'm a void walker. Thanks, Joe Root.
This is Barbara Charlton from Metaphorical Archaeology. If you've ever had a traumatic paranormal experience, the effects of it may stay with you for years. Who do you talk to? You can't go to conventional help. What we do is we use emotional freedom techniques or tapping to actually neutralize the effects of that event. Maybe when you tell the story now, your heart races and your palms get sweaty. You don't even want to think about it because you don't know how to neutralize that. That's what EFT tapping does. It neutralizes those emotions. The circuit that was recorded on is gone. The energy flows freely and you're free of it. And that's what emotional freedom is all about. We offer this as a pro bono service, but this is something that I offer because no one, it seems, is helping people with these experiences. If you'd like to reach me, it's really easy. My cell phone is 214-995-3754. Please leave a message. I will get back to you as quickly as possible. Or you can email me, barb.eft@gmail.com. And EFT stands for Emotional Freedom Techniques. Reach out to me. It's confidential. This works. You won't believe the results.
Have you heard of heavy metals? Yeah! I'm not talking about the heavy metals in the junkyard. I'm talking about the heavy metals that build up in your body. Heavy metals in your body can make you feel sluggish, fatigued, and just plain off. Why not try Life Change Tea at GetTheTea.com? Cleansing your body and making you feel great. Cleansing the inside of your body of intruders that sneak their way into you and set up an intruder camp. Life Change Tea helps remove unwanted intruder camps. Brew it, steep it, and drink in the results. Tastes great so you can create a new health habit. Our tea loves to help people. It just needs the chance. So order yours today by logging on to GetTheTea.com. That's GetTheTea.com. Our Life Change Super Strength Tea is waiting. This could be a beautiful relationship. Take charge of your health. Order at GetTheTea.com. That's GetTheTea.com.
The Fringe FM isn't just a radio station. We also provide services for all your audio production needs. If you are interested in live radio or pre-recorded podcasts, we're here to help. We even do audio enhancements and voiceovers if needed. If you want to do a podcast or live radio show and even want the option to syndicate on terrestrial radio, from simple audio file enhancement to live production and call screening, we have you covered. We have worked with some of the best professionals in the business in order to provide coaching instruction for content creation, show structure, and more. Contact The Fringe Digital Media for more at info@thefringe.fm. That's info@thefringe.fm. Or call 501-777-5631 for a consultation.
listening to Joe Roop and Lighting the Void here on The Fringe FM.
To Lighting the Void. The call number is 1-800-588-0335. The topic for tonight's Magic and Occultism. We're here with Adam Mistry. Also pretty cool. Looks like Bride dropped that book I was talking about, The Son of Chicken Kabbalah, in the chat. So if you guys want to study a system of spiritual development that was made by a modern magician, there's one right there. Right there for you. Again, thanks, Adam, for coming on the broadcast, man. All the way from down under. No doubt.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
So you consider yourself a Gnostic, right? And this is where I get confused a little bit about Gnosticism because, well, there's a couple of Gnosticism is beautiful, by the way, but there's a couple of teachings that gets me tossed up. One is the great teachings of the sexual forces that Samael talks about, right? Which is that's at the foundation of any of these systems if you study it long enough, right? And then and then there's the other one where the Old Testament God was where they say was actually the demiurge or the god or the archon that is actually trying to I guess rule us or enslave us. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
So it gets confusing a little bit. That's all I'm saying.
Oh, confusing. Well, the way I look at it is it's kind of hard because there were many different Gnostic schools, but the two most famous ones, when people think of the demiurge as this evil being that rules over people, what they're thinking of is Sethian Gnosticism. So Seth, S-E-T-H. That's the third son of Adam. So there's Cain and Abel, and then there's the third guy that everyone forgets. So the whole idea is in their Gnostic cosmology is it was the demiurge that came and kind of ravished Eve, and that she had she had Cain, and then Abel was the true son of Adam and Eve, but Cain then killed Abel. But then there needed to be something to redeem, and so then Eve had another true son, which is Seth. So the Sethians saw themselves as the son of Seth, whereas they saw the rest of the world as the sons of Cain. I mean, the way I would reconcile that in my thing, I mean, also I mentioned there are the Gnostic schools. So like the Valentinian Gnostic schools were more Neoplatonic. So they included the demiurge as a kind of architect, but they didn't see the demiurge as something evil. The demiurge was just something kind of asleep or mechanical. And you still need to liberate yourself from it in the same way you need to liberate yourself from illusion if you're a Buddhist. But with the Sethians and their cosmology, it is quite interesting. I don't know. It has a certain flavor to it. And the way they look at it, the sons of Cain, those to me are all the people in the world who are addicted to materialism. They're people who have no spiritual inkling or impulse whatsoever. They may be very nice people, or they may be very evil people, but they're the sons of Cain merely. They have no interest. They're just into matter, and that's okay. That's okay for them. Not everyone's gonna want to be psychic, one of the psychic people who ascend the aeons and make it back to the treasury of light and meet Barbello or whatnot. But that's how I kind of reconcile it within myself. But okay. I'm not sure if that's satisfying to other people. I don't know how you felt about that.
No, it's cool. I mean, it's a great way to explain it because they ask me those questions about the Gnostics, and Crowley had his own version of the Gnostic Church, and it's more like Gnosticism is this idea of knowing, right?
Yes.
A deeper knowing about the mysteries. So it's not really, I think people look at it like a specific religion, and it's more of an idea.
Gnosticism, you could say in early times, was more of an inkling. or more of a just a way of moving within a certain tradition. So it's like you could say a Gnostic is merely anyone who has direct experience. Like a true, I like to say, I identify as a Gnostic, but really, a true Gnostic is someone, who can astrally project, or who has clairvoyance and can see into the ultra, can see into the Akashic records, or who can go and meet the gods and speak to them face to face, so to speak. That's what a true Gnostic is. It's someone who has direct experience. That's gnosis, knowledge. Whereas what we have is a certain, what would you call it? I know the only knowledge we can have is knowledge that comes to us through the senses, because we're bound in a certain space-time. But as we do this work, we open ourselves up, and those faculties, those psychic organs begin to regenerate. And so we begin to have spontaneous visions of symbols or intuitional impulses that guide us to certain things.
Yeah, and so I don't know, I'm fascinated by it all, but then again, it does make you wonder, like when you're practicing magic or you're doing any like lesser banishing rituals and you're using the names of Jehovah, and Yod Hey Vav Hey stuff.
Yeah.
It's like, oh man, am I invoking the demiurge here or what? Like,
So stuff like that's interesting. I would say the demiurge has a specific name. It's Sabaoth, it's Yaldabaoth. Jehovah, I know they talk about the god in the Old Testament as being, the demiurge, but it's more like the demiurge likes to take the name of God. So Jehovah is its own kind of thing. Like, I think, there's a lot of, like, Jehovah, Adonai, all of those names, they're just holy names. And so I know people who worship the demiurge, obviously wanting to make the demiurge holy, or the demiurge itself would like to be endowed with that attribute. The demiurge doesn't like to think that there's anything above it, so it may take those names. But yeah, I see nothing wrong with using angel names or those spiritual kind of names or whatnot. In a sense, it's weird. The Gnostics had a lot of troubles with those early things, but at the same time, you see certain Kabbalistic attribute, especially in Sethian Gnosticism, you see certain Kabbalistic influence kind of leak in, and also in Kabbalah you see certain Gnostic influences come. I mean, in the Sephira Yetzirah, in that book, when it mentions the Sephiroth, I believe, if I'm remembering correctly, it doesn't mention them like the Tree of Life. That's right. More of that comes later. It mentions that it describes them more like the aeons, the Gnostic aeons. This is kind of like a bunch of spheres, and they all kind of interrelate, but not necessarily one is above the other. But so it's somewhat, I don't know. The idea of this, what would you call it, kind of cosmic evil. There's evil in this world, or you could say there's a moral evil, but then we need to go beyond that, and then there's also then we have to go against a cosmic evil. You could see it more. It's hard. It almost feels a part of me wants to say something like, if you're in duality, when you look up at something like that, it looks evil, but it may not necessarily be evil. It may not necessarily be tyrannical, because if you want to help, say, a drunkard on the street, what are you going to do? You take away his liquor. Well, how is he going to look at you? He's going to look at you as a tyrant who's taking away his liquor, but really you're helping him out. So there could be some interplay with that in Gnosticism, in that problem with evil Gnosticism. It could be that they're looking at certain forces that are, and that some forces may be helping, or some forces may just be tyrannical, but they're actually mechanical. So, yeah, I think it does.
No, go ahead. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
I was just going to say something like, I can't remember what I was going to say. You go.
Well, do you feel like that the studies of this and the practice of magic has actually helped you come in contact with your higher self? Do you feel like that you're speaking, you're learning to speak with your higher self better than you used to be able to?
Oh, definitely. I mean, intuition in and of itself is, one of the second language of the higher self, or something. Or the intuition is your higher self whispering in your ear. But, eventually what we want to aim is to that meeting with that holy guardian angel or Atman. We want to meet Atman in the astral or in a psychic vision face to face, and have that integrated into us. But yes, not that I'm at that. I don't claim to be a high, initiate, perfect adept or whatever. I'm merely 10 years in. I'm merely just starting. But I definitely feel it's brought me closer. But that's one thing that I would say is also one thing you have to think of as a difference is there's our higher self is the main thing that we're connecting to. The whole point of working with angels and whatnot, the idea behind that is I think the way Steiner put it is he said there's you can kind of split into two kind of ways of working. And that's a microcosmic or a macrocosmic way. And it's the microcosmic way, he said, you could say is embodied by someone like the Buddha, who just focused on nothing but the microcosm. So it's like you can say there's certain ways that are mainly psychological, like in Zen Buddhism, it's just concentration and nothing else, until like later on when it becomes more tantric. But then there's the other way is more macrocosmic, whereas you're manipulating forces in the macrocosmos to have a certain effect within your microcosm. So when you're working with those angels, or what are they? They're cosmic forces. It's interesting when you look at planetary magic and when they talk about the planets, the planets bind us, but also we can control the rays of the planet. By doing certain things, we have dominion over those rays. So a part of magic is having dominion over that, gaining power, understanding the laws so that we can begin playing the game. Right now we're in a game of chess, but we don't know what the pieces are. We don't know how to move the pieces. We don't even know we're in a game of chess. But as we begin to awaken, as we begin to study and understand the rules, we can begin manipulating things and doing things. Those angels, what would you say? How would you put it? There's one concept that is quite interesting, where one of the reasons why if you meet an entity in the astral, why you can always overcome it is because you have a physical body and it doesn't. An angel or a celestial being, its physical body is far off into the distance, so you can manipulate its rays easily. It's only if you were standing on, Jupiter or standing on Mars and you tried to manipulate the Martian ray, it wouldn't work. But being where we are in the universe, we're situated in a way, in a perfect way to escape, to jump off the planet, to, escape the simulation or whatnot. So when we're working in, lesser banishing ritual of the pentagram, and we're invoking those names, what we're invoking is the energy, and we're manipulating, we're using it for ourselves in that sense, to develop ourselves, to then develop the lower self so it can connect to the higher self. That's how I would reconcile that in my mind, at least.
Yeah, that's that's a really good way of explaining it too. So this is the biggest stuff about it that I have a hard time explaining sometimes, because literally I feel like, let's just say you could do a daily meditation, a daily ritual, and maybe an adoration or two a day, right? But if you stay steady with it, if you get ritualistic with it, what ends up happening is you start coming in contact energetically with your higher self. Synchronicities pick up, your divinations start to make more sense. It just changes your whole life just because you got an energetic routine of balance, just doing that alone. So imagine what it would be like staying on that path, but really delving into it in a systematic approach where it gets deeper. And as many people as say that they're initiates, occultists, and magicians and things like that, there aren't that many people, I can assure you, walking the face of the earth that have really put that kind of time into it. I think when people hear the word magic, they think sigils and chaos magic and a Wicca, and not so much this approach that it was originally designed for. Well, I don't want to say originally, but the kind of magic that I'm talking about, right? Where it's a daily practice,
agree. You could say it's like the magic of the temples, and then there was the magic of the people. The magic of the people were obsessed with, cursing your neighbor, or getting a good lover for a wedding, or, becoming more rich, or that was the magic of the people. And, maybe exorcising demons were a part of that as well, and healing some sick and some medicine was a part of that. But then there was the magic of the temples, which was rituals, was invoking gods and angels and beings, and working with celestial entities to, change your magnetism, your vibration, to develop something within you, to develop that solar force in the heart. In alchemy, it's called fixing the gold, We have the symbol of gold in alchemy is the little circle of the dot in the middle, which is the symbol of the sun. So it's like you fix your gold in the heart. You have that solar force in the heart pulsating there. That, that sun, that's a part of your being, a part of your innermost is within you now, is moving with you on your path. That's what one of the aims is, I would say.
Yeah, that's really good. That's another good way of putting it too, man. Yeah, you articulate things very well. I like that. So.
Thank you. Well, I'm an angry Aquarius who spent his life, people misunderstanding me. So I try and articulate. That's been my life, trying to find ways to articulate these crazy ideas so people can understand them.
Yeah, I get it. I totally get that. I've done it from more of a Southern redneck approach. So try to articulate that. So I get it.
Nice.
What types of things would you consider? I guess, because there's always that question, well, is magic dangerous? And I ask anybody that practices magic what your thoughts are on that.
Magic is only dangerous if you're... when I like to talk about magic, instead of saying black-white, I separate it into high and low. So high magic is not dangerous. If you're working with an angel, the worst thing that can happen is the angel just doesn't show up. Whereas low magic... that has a little more, a little more spice to it, a little more edge. Like if you work with a demon, well, you may get what you want, but not in the way you want it. I think you mentioned, talking about sigil magic and chaos magic. I think one of the funniest stories I ever heard, I think it's a famous story, is it was like a lady who she was moving house or something, and she really needed some spare cash. And so she did sigil magic. And she wrote something like, I want $10,000, made it into a sigil, and then burnt it. And then, nothing happened, and, days went by, and then it was like the day of the move, and she packed everything up, put it in her car, and then as she went to do something, she locked the keys, she locked her car, and as she turned around, a guy walked up to her with like a gun, and was like, hey, give me your keys. And she basically got mugged, and he just drove away with her car, all of her things. She never saw anything again. It was like basically mugged her of all of her livelihood. She got the insurance check for her car. I think that was in her car, $10,000 exactly. So it's like the magic worked. So
yeah, but it manifested through actual laws that make sense, Yeah,
exactly. In so you need a certain amount of force to make magic like that work. So you need to build up your internal, I would say you need to build up your internal energies first before doing any magic. But as for things going wrong, like any dangers, I would say not really, as long as you're true to your path, as long as you're true to, connecting to what the true goal is, which really is understanding truth or the absolute or the Ayin or God. You want to get to that point. You want to you want to kick down, no, maybe not kick down the doors of heaven. I don't want to be too blasphemous, but you want to get into the higher dimensions and see what's there. If you're true to that aim, if you're something pure and you're working with angels, what's the worst thing that can happen? There may be demons, or there may be vampires, or there may be dark astral entities or larvae around, but they can't touch you. It's when you falter, when, I don't know, you're at work and someone kind of makes you angry or something, or I don't know, someone cuts you off on the street, and then you think about, using certain power or using your knowledge in a specific way that maybe, I don't know, how the New Age people say it, would bring you bad karma. In that sense, there will be a retribution. Like that shield that you have around you will be removed, and forces that weren't able to flow within you will begin to flow within you.
Well, sometimes people say, be more specific. And when you ask for things, and I say, well, if you're working with your higher self, why not be more vague? Let's say, for instance, if you want to manifest, I don't know, like certain chaos magicians would say, I want to have a girlfriend or a boyfriend or whatever, and I want it to be this person. In a higher sense, you could just do a spell that says, hey, I would like for you to send me the perfect soulmate that you have already lined up for me, and whatever timeline serves me best, or do a spell or something that says I would like to, or even a ritual that says I want to be able to learn more or have more knowledge, just some really big but basic things. Those things really work, I think, in a better way.
Definitely. Yeah.
You know,
I totally agree. Sometimes when I petition my higher self, I basically just say, I want what you want to give me. Just come on, man. Let's do it.
Yeah, because it's kind of like learning to co-create, right?
Because if you ask for something specific, sometimes you can get a kind of a kickback, like you're not ready for this kind of yet. I remember asking at one point for like the power to know where I am on the path. Like, what am I doing? You know, I'm not aware. I'm not that good at astral projecting, so I don't know where I am. Like, where am I astrally? Where am I in my work? And the little voice that I got a kind of a message. The impulse that I got from the higher self was the words arrived up that basically said, if you learn to measure yourself, it's dangerous because you'll also be able to measure everybody else. And I was like, ooh.
Cool. Yeah, because then it's like a relative, then that puts you in a position of relativity to everybody, and they don't want you to do that.
And it can also be a thing that also feeds then like pride, like, oh, I'm here and that person's over there. And, that whole, when you kind of like, the new age hippie kind of thing of being all, oh, he's not awake, but we're awake. And, that kind of, it's that you can easily fall into a spot of spiritual materialism with something like that. So I understood, and I was like, okay, fine. Fine.
You know what else I kind of like about the tree is like when you just the tree for as far as the Kabbalah is concerned, when it really helps narrow down consciousness. In society we culturize things. Well, that person's a narcissist. Well, that person's a psychopath, or that person's a mad hatter, or whatever. And it's easy to point your finger and say this person's that or this. But if you realize that all of those energies on the tree make up everybody, so like if you have an event of anger, you can say, well, I gave into the part of me that represents severity or Gabora. I wasn't balanced, right? You can learn to do it that way instead of letting society categorize you too,
Yeah. That's really beautiful. That's a perfect way to look at it. That's another important thing, like understanding a lot of this work. Yeah, it's energetic, but it's also to do with the consciousness itself, which as a part of that is psychological. We need to confront ourselves. We need to be mini Carl Jungs in a sense. We need to confront our shadows.
Right. And certain entities will correspond with those, places and attitudes, demons, sigils, symbols, ideas, things like that,
definitely.
So, one last question before we got to take our last break here. I know you studied this, but the Holy Guardian Angel, or what the Golden Dawn, Israel Regardi, and others talked about the HGA, that everybody has a Holy Guardian Angel that has a name, that you learn that name. And a matter of fact, the ceremony or ritual of Abramel and the Mage was a massive achievement, according to these magicians, and Crowley tried it in Boleskine too, and failed miserably from what it seems like. But I don't know anybody besides maybe Lionel Snell, one person that I know that said that they completed that ritual and spoke with their Holy Guardian Angel. But other than that, or Daniel Joseph, who's a mystic, other than that, I don't know anybody that actually knows their angel, knows its name. Let's just say that's convinced me, that they have.
Yeah. That's a tragedy. Those are the true initiates. In a sense, I have some kind of inkling, but I'm not at that level yet. But I've bet there are some people who I definitely know they know their angel name. It's not like, and it's hard to, or you're going to go to dinner and be like, so what's your Holy Guardian Angel name? It's hard to kind of bring that up in conversation. But there are a few people who I've met who I'm like, yeah, this guy's, there was actually one guy who his wife said something, and then he kind of turned around and was like, shh. Like, and it was clearly an angel name, but I missed it.
Yeah.
So I have met people. They do exist in the world, but I feel like those people, once they get to that stage, they don't necessarily advertise. It's almost like they become the position they take is almost one of like, if you come to me, well, karma put you here, so well now it's time to learn kind of thing. Like it's just that's just how they kind of see it. It's very hard to find them.
I see. Yeah, but they probably wouldn't talk about it anyways, right? I mean, yeah, I get what you're saying. That's pretty cool. Yeah. So, we got to take our last break here. Again, if you guys want to call in and ask any questions, it's 1-800-588-0335. I'm Joe Roop. We're here with Adam Mistry. This is Lighting the Void. Stay tuned. More to come.
Talk radio, then you'll love TalkStreamLive.com. TalkStream Live is always on, 24/7 with the best streaming talk shows. Find your favorite talkers and discover some new ones. It's free, readily available online or on mobile with any smartphone or tablet. Finding your favorite talk shows all in one place has gotten a whole lot easier. Just go to TalkStreamLive.com. Be sure to download the free apps from Google Play or the iTunes App Store.
The truth is out there, and so are we. KTLK, Digital Broadcasting, The Fringe FM.
Want to support Lighting the Void? Just go to lightingthevoid.com, sign up on our membership page and pick your package where you can get exclusive content, readings, and exclusive behind-the-scenes content. Also, check out the LTV shop where you can get your very own altar box, t-shirt, shack, hoodie with sigil, Roswell-style t-shirt, racerback tees, socks, long-sleeve shirts, stickers, and beanies. Keep Lighting the Void airing 5 nights a week by going to lightingthevoid.com and support today.
Hey, is that a new music app?
Yeah, check it out. Surfer Music Discovery. It links to thousands of online stations, but the twist is you see the song names and artists that are now playing live.
That's different. No guessing. Looks like a waterfall of music.
So many formats. Rock, oldies, country, R&B, jazz, and a whole lot more.
How's that spelled?
Surfer. SURFR.
Is it expensive?
It's free. No need to sign up or sign in.
Get the Surfer Music app free from Google Play or the App Store.
Telepath is a weekly digital newsletter filled with the latest paranormal news, trending topics, and fresh articles from some of the most popular critical thinkers in the community today. Stay informed on your favorite paranormal podcasts and live streaming talk shows. Interact with the Telepath and upload your paranormal story or pics. It could be featured in an upcoming edition. Sign up right now for the free Telepath newsletter at paranormal.radio. That's paranormal.radio.
Lighting the Void and the Esoteric Scholar present the Altar Box, crafted and designed for magicians by magicians. Now you can take your practice with you. This beautifully handcrafted mobile altar opens and works as an altar for any of your spiritual, religious, or ritual practices. Made to travel and work in small spaces, the Altar Box comes with hidden compartments for your practice tools and accessories. The Altar Box also comes with a dark scrying mirror for scrying and reverses and fits perfectly also as a chalkboard for any sigil, symbol, or whatever you see fit to sketch. The Altar Box is handcrafted to carry as a small suitcase, so you may take your practice with you, and the hinges are made with solid material and hinged with leather and rivets for extra strength. The mirror piece and floor plate fit perfectly when closed, so no movement will happen. Use it in small places as well. You can practice meditation, magic, planetary magic, sigil magic, scrying, ritual. Never be without your practice tools again, no matter the setting or where you go. And this season, give the gift of magic for yourself or your loved one by grabbing your Altar Box. Was $249.99, now $199.99. The sale ends January 1st, 2021. Just go to lightingthevoid.com/altarbox and get yours while the sale lasts.
I don't know all the answers to the questions about reality. I do not claim to know the ultimate truth about life. I seek that which has been made
Welcome back to Lighting the Void. Adam Mistry, our guest tonight. I'm having a really good discussion about magic and occultism. Don't forget, if you go to one of our sponsors, especially at Get the Tea or Ancient Life Oil, make sure you put the Fringe FM in there. And by supporting our sponsors, you're supporting the network as well. And lightingthevoid.com is our website. You can also send an email to me at contact@lightingthevoid.com. Well, man, Adam, I've had a really good time talking to you tonight. I know we got a few more minutes here to discuss. It's I guess I'm just going to kind of ask you some personal questions here. Like, what do you find the most interesting part about this whole magic and occult journey, or learning to come to your higher self? If someone had to narrow down and say, look, you can only study or practice one of these aspects of all of these different things, and I know that's a difficult question, which one would you go for?
Ooh, that would be the transmutation of energy, definitely. The good understanding of internal alchemy, like understanding that we have energy inside of us and that most people just waste it uselessly all the time, whether it be through constantly overthinking, whether it be anxiety or depression or constant negative emotions, like they constantly bursts of anger, or they're just overusing their physical body, like they're just completely worn out from working 2 shifts. Mm-hmm. People have to balance their lives to turn their body into that alchemical vessel, to cover up all all of the leaks. That's one thing that Gurdjieff said. It's like people just leak energy all the time. Is to cover up all those leaks, let energy build up, but also to then understand the alchemical transmutation that we can do, that we can transmute our own energy. And a part of that is understanding that the most base energy, or the most primal energy, the richest energy, is that sexual energy, that sexual force, which I mentioned before, which is just that, you have, what is the sexual force? If you spill it outwards, it has the ability to create a new physical body. It has the ability to create life. But if you make it go inwards and upwards, it can also create. It can also give birth. So you can give birth to something by transmuting your energies inwards and upwards. Right. As a single person, you can do something, but really what the Taoists would say is via dual cultivation, where you have, and you're a priest and you have an alchemical priestess that you work with, and that you do together, like a type of a sexual tantra or sexual alchemy. Mm-hmm. And through this, those energies transmute inwards and upwards, and something new is born. So this is what it truly means to be born again. It's not that you've just changed your beliefs or your ideas or your thinking. Nothing was born out of thinking. This is something real. As above, so below. Yeah. So that would be... the cool thing about that is I learned about this, what they called true Hermetic alchemy, which they said was hidden all the way from the Egyptians, was the transmutation of energetic forces, especially learning to use the sexual energy. But it's not really that hidden now. But I will say that I did talk to some people that initiated me, that they all had partners, or priests and priestesses. And I asked them too, I said, how did you end up finding that person like that? And they said, I just did the work and it led me to them. Isn't that crazy? Do you believe that? That's not crazy at all. That's not crazy at all. People of a similar vibration. If you're doing the work, they come together. Yeah. And this one 100%. Guy, he was like, I don't want to say his name because I don't want to embarrass him, but he was like almost 70 years old, and I swear he looked like he was 35, And I asked him, I said, how in the hell did you do that? And he said the work must be working. And he just smiled at me. But he's been doing this stuff his whole life, though, right? Hell yeah. That guy's pretty cool. Yeah, he's really cool, man. Like he looked young, and it kind of freaked me out because it was almost like a vampiric. I'm talking to a vampire, it seemed, at first. Like a Count Dracula. Right. But I mean, but he was like, no, like I've just been doing this work, I understand. That's what happens when you transmute your sexual energy, it just regenerates everything. In some cases, in that guy's case, even his physical body must have just been maintained, must have regenerated some of his physical body. And I've been wanting to do a show on this subject, a set of shows on this subject forever, because not only, and people
they just look at me like I'm the craziest person in the world, right, when I say this. But not only is that one of the most divine things that we can do in the world, in which I believe why they made this whole religious thing about marriage and sanctuary and all this other stuff, because they were hiding the real truth of the mystery behind it, number one. But secondly, when the energies leaked all over the place, you can read countless books about astral travel, countless books about this stuff, and look at the earth and where it is now. And if we understood this as humans, the earth would not be in the state it's in, and the astral realm would not be in the state it's in a lot of ways. And it's just 100%. Something that we are just totally oblivious to,
100%. But you could say that these are the forces of counter initiation don't want us to know about it.
Right.
They want us to continuously, go into materialism, create more matter, just continuously, spill your energies. Don't worry about it. There's nothing higher. There's nothing in the higher realms. Just spill your energies, bro. Like that's all they care about. So that's actually really cool that you want to do that. You want to start doing a few episodes on sacred sexuality.
I think I'm going to do it in the membership section because it's kind of a touchy subject, but most of the damage that's done to people in their lives too, and I would say definitely, like I would say emotional or holes in their energetic soul and stuff like that is 100%. From this not knowing this, right?
Yeah.
But I'm no saint either. I'm not a saint either. I'm just saying, like, I understand this now.
It'll absolutely change everything, all of your practice, when you start practicing in that way. When you start saving your energies and transmuting them, just everything. It's almost like there's an energetic circuit that's just missing. And when you do this, it reconnects, and just a circuit that was once, left on the wayside is then filled with energy, and then things just start to light up, and things just start to move. It's the profound thing that's missing from everything. And there are so many authors that touch on it, and then they kind of back away from it. That's one of the reasons why I like the Samael, is because he kind of talks about it openly. But I remember reading Franz Hartmann. In one of his books, there's a book called Magic, Black and White. And in that book, he goes through it talking about all this stuff. And then right at the end, not even in the main text, in the footnote, he says this crazy story about how he knew a guy, an initiate, who could make mental projections that people could see. And he got jumped by two highwaymen, and then just made a mental projection of himself to confuse them as he ran away. But he said that guy, he said it was very enigmatic. He said this man never completed the great work because he needed a woman of sufficient purity to do a specific alchemical process with, but could never find a woman. And I just remember reading that, and I could feel Franz Hartmann winking through the pages at me, bro, this is the key to the entire book. Basically, it's just in a footnote, not even in the main text. And then there's other people who touch on it as well, if you've read the book Initiation into Hermetics.
Yeah, but Franz, you talking about Franz Barden? Yeah.
But Franz Barden, fantastic book. Right at the end, he starts talking about sexual magic, and then he's like, "Oh, but it's dangerous. You don't want to do it." And then he gets almost like
everybody does that, right? Everybody pulls away from it. Except for Crowley, and then Crowley just takes it to a whole nother level, Crowley takes it to a level where I don't necessarily agree with in a lot of ways,
I think we're on the same page then.
But if you can find a life partner that's willing to do this work with you for the rest of as long as you both shall live, I guess, and you both study this stuff, which is would be a dream come true for me. I mean, that is a hell of a thing. But I really do believe that, if you're doing the work to begin with in yourself and all this other stuff, that you'll vibrate to that level, you'll find the right person. So in a sense, you don't have to worry about it, I don't think, if you're doing the work, so to speak.
Yeah, 100%. I definitely agree.
But I did want to do a show on how it helps you come into your higher self. It helps you reach certain levels of love and understanding that we haven't even begun to feel, especially energetically. But also the counter side of that. I don't think we understand. I'm going to sound like an old grandpa here, maybe, I don't know. but I don't think we understand the cause and effect of not understanding it is what has caused a lot of what we consider evil on this earth, you know?
I was reading something recently. I remember a quote. It was something like, you know, knowledge is the body of wisdom, but love is the soul of wisdom. And in this world, we've got a lot of knowledge, but we're missing a lot of that love. And so without that heart, we've just kind of gone off in all directions. We're lost.
Yeah, we have. So yeah, exactly. So we have people that have massive depression. I've been there too. Massive anxiety, all kinds of different disorders, all kinds of different health disorders, and all of this comes from not understanding how to balance our energies properly. All of it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It's kind of like what Morpheus was telling Neo, you know, when they picked the battery up and he said that they're using you for this kind of thing, right? Mm-hmm. There's more of an understanding of how that battery works, right? You know?
Yeah.
They suck the energy out of you as soon as you become unbalanced, right? So.
If we understand our energies and the transmutation of them, and if we understand, that's why you could say the path of the mystic, their devotion, they develop love, like they develop certain higher emotions, and those higher emotions, you could say, naturally transmute their energies. So for them, it's just like this, like they're just going up different levels of vibration, and then that naturally transmutes their energies. But then you get other systems that are more keen on that, like what is it, the science of transmutation, like the Qigong or the Taoist alchemical tradition, where they have a lot of that, looking at the internal body and looking at the nadis, the pathways, that all of these things, you know, they can be filled with force, filled with energy, but they're dormant in a lot of people. And a lot of people, that's what, as you said, it makes them imbalance. It's what the source of their imbalance. And if they get it right, it fixes them up. That's how I would actually describe myself before I kind of stumbled onto the path. Is, you know, I was just some random guy. I was floating through life. I didn't have. It was like I was broken. Yeah, and when I found the work, when I found even like magic or occultism, it's like that became a center of gravity, and then everything that I had done in my life had kind of stuck to it, and it gave me form. It gave me like a consistency. It's like that thing that. It kind of made me who I am, but it allowed me to be who I am, I should say. It didn't make me who I am.
I know exactly what you're saying, bro. 100%.
Thanks.
Yeah. Because I'm just saying I've been there before too. And don't get me wrong, like I've messed up a lot and realized that I've strayed from it, because we can get unbalanced in all kinds of different ways. You know, real quick too, while we're running out of time, because I want to talk to you about this. When I was initiated into, I guess, the Golden Dawn a long time ago, I don't like to make a big deal out of it, because there's a whole bunch of people that have been initiated into that stuff. So the thing is, you know, I talked to a person, and he told me about alchemy, and he said, you know, there's people talk about alchemy. They talk about Jungian alchemy. They talk about the puffer alchemy, the physical alchemy, spiritual alchemy. He said, but the true mystery of alchemy is transmuting energy. And the way he described it was, and I'm just curious of what you think about this, is he said, we're actually trying to have a physical energetic transmutation, not like what you think, but to become more than human, is what he said. And I was like, yeah, what do you mean? He goes, I'm telling you that there's an actual physical transmutation where we grow our souls through the soil of our body into this being that's more than human, so we can travel through starlight instead of being stuck to the lead of planets, you know? And I was
God,
like,
yes.
What the hell? And it just rang so true to me when he said it, you know?
Yeah. So when I talk about that, I basically say it's something like, I have my overcomplicated way of explaining it is like, I say, think of salt. I basically say, think of salt, because salt is one of the fundamental ingredients in the Philosopher's Stone. There's the sulfur and mercury, and there's salt. Yeah. But salt's an interesting one. Salt, if you want to make a salt crystal, it's really interesting how you do it. You get what you can do is you can get just water from the ocean and you can evaporate it and turn it into powdered salt. But powdered salt's just crappy quality. You want to get the crystals. So how you do that is you get a vessel or a physical body. You put a little bit of the salt in, you mix it around, and it absorbs into the water. The water becomes more opaque. You continuously do this until the water reaches maximum saturation. Then you apply a flame to the water. You boil it up, and then you can put more water in it, more salt powder in it. You super saturate it. And then when you remove the flame and it cools down, crystals begin to form in the water. In that way, that's what we do with us. We need an appropriate vessel, but then we need to fill ourselves with energy. So all of those practices, rituals, introversion, prayer, meditation, all of those things, what they do is they add salt into us. They add energy into us. And then we need that fire. And what is that fire? The fire, you could say the fires could be a couple of different things. For some people, it could be a type of conscious suffering, but really the fire is love. Yeah. So if you have that love, 100, that sexual alchemy. That's right. Then as that fire works, you transform all of that salt, all the energy you've collected inside yourself, and then you crystallize something. And what is crystallized? What is crystallized is a secondary body. What is crystallized is something that's come out of the earth, the soil of the earth. But fundamentally, it is matter that has gone from energy to consciousness, and then to consciousness. So there's three. It said Crum Heller, who's another Rosicrucian, said there are three things in the universe: matter, energy, and consciousness. Matter wants to become energy, and energy wants to become consciousness. Yeah. So as you do this, you crystallize something. Within you, something is crystallized. And this thing, you can put your consciousness in it, and then your consciousness can use that as a body instead of your physical body. So this is Philosopher's Stone, the white stone. Is that what you're talking about? White stone, you could say the solar astral body, or the Merkaba, or the true Merkaba, the true heavenly chariot. It's you can describe it like that. So it's like we crystallize, and then there's either you develop a set of bodies, or you just have one body that you coat multiple times until it becomes the golden body of alchemy or whatever. But nonetheless, that's the work. It's like the image that kind of conjures to my mind. It's like, all the spheres of the Kabbalah, they were once all one sphere, but they've all kind of come out. Malkuth is the sphere we're in now. And it's like all these other spheres, which you could see them as parts of the higher self. Mm-hmm. They're all kind of trying to do something in Malkuth. We are the lowest. We're a part of this huge process that's going on, and we can just completely waste our time here. But if we do create something, then what is created, our physical vessel may eventually break and we die. Well, we die in inverted commas, but what is created is reabsorbed upwards. And then our own internal, our personal Kafir, our personal Ancient of Days can reconnect with everything. We have all of our past lives. We become a being with a chronology outside of time and space, like what a true master is. Then when we come into if we choose to come into new lives, we may have a perpetual memory of all our past lives. Or it could be that this planet is merely a grain of sand in an infinite ocean, and there's other mysteries that we get to participate in. It's truly that when you look at it like that, it's truly that this world is just a school. This world is just a womb for angels and demons. Well, see, we get to decide what we become. This is my point, that people are like, oh, you don't have to do that stuff. You don't have to learn the elements and the planets and all this other stuff. You just dive right into magic. And I'm like, well, if you're doing the great work, you do. Because let's say, for example, you don't know anything about the elements, right? Your physical body or your emotions or all this other stuff that it corresponds with. You don't balance these things out. You more or less are ruled by them. And we're all kind of doing the great work anyway. So I don't want anybody to get too weird about it. But anyways, let's say you don't do any of that stuff, and then you try to go in to do the great work of the sexual forces, right? Well, are you really going to have a balanced, I guess you could say, the perfect stone that way? Like, it's really all about trying to balance your way up through it. Yeah. Is the stone even going to crystallize properly if you keep leaking energy in one way or another? Yeah. So if you do, like, I guess, find someone else to work with, I would,
you hope that they understand that too, right? And why in the hell, by the way, why do you think romance is so awesome to most people, right? Even dudes that they don't admit it, right? But it's that energy.
We've all seen The Notebook.
They all love it, right? Why? Because it's the two biggest energies in the universe. That play back and forth of that separation coming back together while these two people are working all this stuff out within themselves. It's in every movie. It's in life and everything. It's basically those two forces coming together. Yeah.
Straight up. Yeah. That's the mysterium tremendum of the great work. That's always hidden. The great arcana.
It's pretty interesting too. And the funny thing is most of it, we look at it as like a curse, you know? Oh, why me? Or it's always this way or bad. No, we just don't know what we're doing. If you study it enough, you'll say, oh yeah, I see what's going on. Right? You
got to study the game. You got to learn to be a player, not just a pawn.
Right. Yeah. It's funny you say it that way too, though. But yeah, is there anything that thanks for coming on, by the way.
No, thank you for having me, man.
Any other shows you're going to be on, or do you want anybody to give out any links or anything like that while we got a couple of minutes left here with you?
I guess I should mention the YouTube channel. I've started a YouTube channel. It's called M Talks X. So I'm M, and then it's Talks, and then X. So it's a weird name, but basically, yeah, I started it with a friend. It's got a kind of a story behind it, but nonetheless, it's basically just me sitting in front of actually a friend's computer, and I'm just ranting about occult subjects such as this. So if you liked my ramblings on this interview, just go check it out. It's more of the same, basically.
That's awesome stuff, man. That's awesome stuff, and I'm glad there's someone else out there that's doing this stuff that understands it. And I could talk even Samael on Vior with. That's good.
Yeah, hell yeah.
Yeah, really good stuff. Thanks for coming on, brother.
Yeah, no, thank you very much.
All right, we got to get out of here, guys. The Secret Teachings with Ryan Gable's up next. We'll be back tomorrow night with Dark Waters is going to be with us on our open line tonight. Good night, y'all. Sweet dreams. Man, that was a killer show.